We're going to try this again. Hey, it's factory sealed time.
Yay!
Okay, good.
Factory seal, factory seal.
Woot.
That went over a lot better than last time's fart noise.
I think people miss the fart noise now.
It is kind of lacking now that it's not there. But whatever the case, welcome to the show. My name is Eric Peterson. With me today is Jess Clarkson.
Yes.
New microphone and all.
Yes.
That's right.
So we'll let the listeners be the judge of whether or not you made a good purchase.
Okay. Sounds good.
And I've been trying to think of the best way to introduce you because
I'm pretty sure it's. I thought about this. I was thinking about we have Aron Robinson. Hashtag don't blame it on Pong.
I was just gonna say Aron Pong Robinson, but I like
Aron Pong. That's a good one though.
But I
was gonna say like media advisor or like expert on all things video games and media and violence. It's more of a mouthful, but
hashtag.
I'm gonna become famous, and it's gonna be because of that sentence.
That's gonna live on forever. I'm gonna make sure to capture that before.
I'm gonna make a GIF.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I was actually right before we started recording. I was farting around in Photoshop with an image from that, typing something dumb in about Pong, and then my computer just powered down. So I kind of took that as a sign of like, don't do that.
Don't do that to Aron.
Don't be a dick.
Aron's too nice. Aron's too nice. But I feel like you should elaborate on that before we get into anything else. Aron got a little FaceTime with his local news station, so I feel like you should share with us.
Okay, so I'm out and about, and a news guy comes in, and he's like, I'm looking to interview, somebody about video games and the violence in video games and the gun control laws, and I'm like, yeah, I can't really talk to you about it, but here's some people you might be able to talk to. So he leaves, and after he's back, he comes by, and he's desperate because he needs a 10 o'clock story. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll talk to you, I guess. And so we step outside, and he sets up his camera, and he says, okay, I'm just going to ask you a few questions. And I said, okay, let's do it up. And then, he's very leading his questions about if I think, trying to get me to say that I think that violence in video games is the cause for, violence in people and the reactionary, purposes, since like the Columbine shooting, as an excuse and things like that. And so he kept asking me these questions and about it and trying to get me to say something negative about it. And I wouldn't, I said I'm a big fan of video games, and, my main goal in talking to him was just letting them know that, violence has been around long before video games came into creation. And I think that it's all about good parenting choices. If it's a violent video game, maybe you shouldn't let your kids play it. There is the ESRB label on there.
Yeah, but who follows that?
Exactly, but that's not. You know what I mean? But that's that's a parent thing to do, to read that.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And at the end of the segment, pretty much word for word is what he said at the end of the segment that I told him about the ESRB. So, he did get that across, but it was really funny because, of course, they didn't use things that were beneficial to actually learning about what's the word I'm looking for? Educating people. Yeah. But they just used the most randomest quote that I said, and it left out the rest of my conversation.
Oh.
Just left it with me saying, pretty much, you can't blame violence on Pong.
Yes. Or something like that, I think is how you finished it.
Pong or something like that.
Quite possibly the best news interview ever.
Yes. But, however, thinking about it, I remember playing Pong, and that brought a lot of violent tensions out when you lost.
I could see that. But I don't know if that's going to inspire somebody to go shoot someplace up.
Probably not. But, I definitely don't see how violence in video games will make somebody think, oh, you know what, that's a good idea. I should just go in and just shoot people up because I did it in a video game.
Well, I could see how some kids can't differentiate between fact and fiction.
Right.
But that comes down to the parents to make sure that, hey, don't give your kids these games, and if you're going to, make sure to talk to them about it. It's a pretty simple solution.
It's all about parenting, and then the problem is it's all connected. You know what I mean? Like the whole.
I'd say if anything, the violence on TV is worse.
It is worse, definitely worse. There's violence in the books, there's violence on TV, there's violence on the news. I mean, we're talking about a country right now that's talking about banning guns and assault rifles. Yet we're making sure that every citizen in another country can have one to defend themselves.
Yeah.
Including children. So
it's a fun time.
Yeah. But that's not topic for this show.
Absolutely not. So
I feel like we could spend hours on that topic.
I'm sure we can if you go I think Eric has the actual link if you actually want to
I'll be sending it out, don't you worry.
Peruse my handsome face talking about Pong on television.
You look good while you're talking, so there you go.
So this guy came into GameStop, and you went outside of GameStop.
This had nothing to do with GameStop. I was not at GameStop.
I'm on the record. This had nothing to do.
Oh, okay. So you
I
were
did
just
this for Manatank.com.
You were just out and about.
To do a retro gaming podcast.
Okay, you were just out and about at your local grocer, picking up some lemons.
Yeah, he knew I was a gamer though, because I was shopping in the video game aisle of the video game store portion of the grocery store.
Oh, okay.
When you were just out and about.
I was not anywhere near a GameStop.
Okay, officially, that is the official record. You heard it here. So we've all been on vacation. I think we should explain why it's been over a month since our last show. I decided to take a month-long vacation from...
Must be nice.
It was. It was very nice, actually. Gone from December 19th through this past Monday. So, almost a month.
Well, that's exciting, man.
Your
car made it until you got home, so that's amazing.
Well, we didn't drive.
Oh, you didn't drive. Flew.
No, we flew... And then I got home to discover that my car, which had not been driven in a month, was just in absolute shambles. So now it's sitting at the repair shop with the $1,000 repair bill waiting for me.
Yay
so
for repair bills.
Welcome home, right?
Welcome home.
But
nice present.
Flew up to Wisconsin, then went down to Indiana, then to Kentucky, then back to Wisconsin. I drove through Rochester, neglecting entirely to stop in to see Aron.
Yeah, we were going to do a live show together again. And
yeah.
he's just like, nah, I'd rather go see the wood chipper.
Yeah. And then I went up to Fargo, and I saw the real wood chipper from the movie.
After he faked us out with a fake one.
Well, shut up. Don't judge me. It was
He was right, but he was in front of the real one. He just didn't know it wasn't the real one until he turned around and read the sign that said, "This is not the real one. It's inside the building over here."
I even took a picture of the sign before I stood behind it, and because I was going to send it to my sister with the sign and then the picture, and then I didn't even realize that it was the wrong one until like a day and a half later when I was looking through my pictures and actually read it. So I'd sent that picture to a bunch of people, and just like, awesome.
Wow. That's embarrassing.
Yeah. So, spent some time up in Fargo, and then I flew to lovely Canadaland.
Yes.
Wow.
You flew to Canada?
I flew to Canada. Not to see
Edmonton,
Jess.
didn't you?
Yeah, I was on the other side of the barren wilderness.
Yep.
So, I went up there to visit the guys from the Manatank podcast, which, I don't know, I'm assuming a vast majority of our listeners know about that, but if not, it's another show that I'm on.
The Matt
It's not as cool.
Yeah.
I did not know about that. I would have loved to have joined on that somehow.
Oh, the New Year's live stream?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. We got pretty lit up on that. But if you want to watch that stream, it's on manatank.com. You go into videos, video archives, boom, there it is. So,
and I never realized how short swag was. Jesus.
Oh, yeah. It was crazy because when I got to the airport, I figured I had no cell phone service. I had no way for them to actually find me. So I walk out and I put on my Mega Man hat, which apparently everybody in Canada calls toques? Toques. And I just kept mispronouncing it took just to piss everybody off. But I put on my Mega Man hat, and as soon as I put that on, there's a car that stops about 2 lanes down, and it was Matt and Kev. And Kev gets out, gives me a big burly hug, and for all I know, it really couldn't have been him. It could have just been a couple dudes with huge beards taking me away in their car. But we got back to Kev's place, and Oliver showed up, and very first thing he said to me, he's like, "God damn, you're tall."
How tall are you?
About 6'1", but I think he's about 4'1". I don't know. He's super small. But
what do you guys call toques then?
Just hats.
Just call them stocking caps.
Stocking cap, hat,
Stocking
winter
cap.
hat, head covering.
All right. So,
Bizarre.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
So not as exciting an airport trip as when we picked up the Matt Eads.
no.
You didn't have to call, like,
No.
using a quarter and realize it's not enough to call America.
No, unfortunately, it was a little less exciting than that. But I just got to tell you, Jess, Canada, I don't know how anybody can live up there because it is so damn expensive.
Yeah.
Everything.
You get used to it, though, because when I go to the States, I'm like, it's so damn cheap.
Oh, no. Like, I was there from Thursday through Monday, and I didn't buy any souvenirs or any trinkets for myself. It was mainly just spent on food. And, just like fast food, or we went out to a restaurant a couple nights, and then we bought some stuff for the live show. And I easily spent $150 in those 4 days on food. And I didn't, that was eating like maybe 2 meals a day if I was lucky. Kev made me breakfast one morning, and I think that was the only breakfast I had.
Yeah. It's pretty bad. Not bad, but it's expensive up here. But when we go down to the States, like I remember one time I went to Wendy's and I got chili and a baked potato, and it came to it was something ridiculous. I think it was $2 or something.
Yeah, because
I was like, did you get the chili? Like, are you sure I'm not ripping you off? Like, can you just charge me more to make me feel better?
Well, we went to Wendy's too, and they don't have a value meal. Everything's like the $1.89 menu. It's like, at that point, why don't I just get a combo? Oh, that's right, the combos are $14.
The $1.89 is our value menu.
That's a terrible value menu. What would have cost $4 here in America was $9.50.
Yeah.
And then what really got me was the price of alcohol. Like a 6-pack of really good beer in the States, if you're paying more than $9, you're getting ripped off. Up there, you could expect to pay $20.
Jeez.
Well, I went down to the States and I got a 60, or is that a handle? You guys call them handles?
We call them 7.5 liters or 175.
Yeah, so 175
Okay.
would be a 60 up here. And
Okay.
I bought a 60 down there for $20.
Yeah.
Up here, it's like $60.
Yeah, I was appalled
More.
by that.
Wow.
I bought a bottle of Jameson for us for the live show because apparently our Texas Mickey of Bacardi rum wasn't big enough. Aaron, if you don't know what a Texas Mickey is, it's a 3-foot bottle of rum.
Yeah,
It's
I
almost
know
taller
what that
than
is.
swag.
Yeah, it's enormous, and we almost polished that entire thing off.
Wow.
So,
Did you
Well-
guys start that just for the show, or was that...
Kev and I, we were planning on it, but we started it the night I got there, and we pounded through a quarter of it between the two of us the first night I was there, and we got it down to about a fifth of it left by the time I left.
Yeah, because it looked pretty empty on the show.
It was getting there. But I need to tell you, on the way to the airport, Kev and I stopped at Costco, and I had my very first poutine.
Yeah.
It was good. It was actually very, very good. It was...
Yeah.
I talked to a lot of people, did some surveying, did a little bit of canvassing. I wanted to find out where the best Canadian poutine was. And everybody says Costco. So we stopped at Costco, and it wasn't cheap. It was like $5 for a little thing of poutine. But
you get a free drink, don't you?
no. The fries are amazing, deep fried fries, and then they put cheese curds on there, which I didn't think anybody outside of Minnesota and Wisconsin knew what cheese curds were.
Oh, Canadians know cheese curds.
Okay, and then they put gravy on it, and it was actually really good. So all of my
More poutine
previous
jokes.
all my previous statements about poutine, I think I'll rescind, which I've been known to do.
Now, speaking of the alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
you were in Kentucky again.
I was.
Did you pick up some more moonshine so we can redo a moonshine cast?
I did not, but the store that I go to get liquor here has the same type of moonshine.
Okay.
So
as long as we have some sort of moonshine.
We are fully applied for
all
this
right.
year's E3, and I'm assuming you're going to go. We've got I think
hoping
we've got
to.
a house that we can stay at this time.
That would be sweet, because I am literally on the budget of the flight,
Yeah.
and that's about it. So I'm going to have to mooch off everybody else for food and rides and place to stay.
Well, guarantee it's going to be a good time. So, the other thing, Jess, this kind of relates a little bit more to the show. Swag took me around to some of the retro stores up there. And
Yes.
you know me, I'm pretty spoiled with the retro stores I have down here being really, really reasonably priced. And I went to one up there, and at first I felt kind of bad for walking in and starting to laugh when I looked at the prices. But in hindsight, I came home and I looked up some of the prices of what they really should be, and this guy was easily 4 times the price of any game.
Oh, yeah.
It was ridiculous. I walked in, and the very first thing I saw was a copy of Theme Hospital, which it's not a really popular game, but it's good. It's rare to find a decent Black Label copy of it. He wanted like $95 for it.
Jesus.
Yeah, a Black Label copy of it. And then his Final Fantasies 7, 8, and 9 Black Label copies he wanted damn near $200 for.
Good Lord.
So,
Yeah.
and they were not sealed. They were in mint condition. So when I got back here, I went down to Bookman's and looked at their Black Label copies, fully complete in box, no cracks, no scratches, $20. I have no idea how people can spend that much money on retro games. I think this guy looked on eBay and just saw the highest asking price. He's like, that's what I'm going to charge.
Well,
Yeah,
I
you
suppose
get
if
a
there's
lot
only
of
one
those
place
stores,
to go.
though.
What?
We both
think-
talked at once.
Both talked at once.
That was some great dead air.
I always thought you guys were going to start, because mine was just literally, well, if it's only one place to get it,
I
then
suppose,
you
and
can charge it. But
I was trying to rationalize that to myself. I mean, here this guy is. He's the only retro shop in northern Edmonton that Oliver knew of, or that he took me to. And he's got all these fantastic games. I mean, if you could name a rare game, he probably had it in stock. But I think there's a reason he had it in stock, is because he got it once and priced it so astronomically high that it never sold. And then he's trying to take that mindset of, well, somebody will pay for it if they really want it, when it's like, the purpose of these games is to be played, so price them so people can afford them. Yeah, make yourself a little bit of money off of it, but just that price is so insane.
well, he must be making enough money to stay open.
Yeah.
And he was in Edmonton, too.
Yeah.
So that's a big place. Like, it's not like he's in the middle of nowhere and can charge extreme amounts of money
It was in like this really backwater area off of some northern campus, and we went to another one that was in one of the malls, and it was just as expensive. I mean, Super Mario RPG, they wanted over $100 for that.
That's like $500 American.
It's exactly the same currency right now. I think it's 2 cents difference. The one that really struck me, like the only one that I could see as being even remotely reasonably priced, was he had a copy of Mega Man X3 for the Super Nintendo, complete in box. It wasn't sealed, but he had a sticker of $400 on it. I'm like,
Jesus.
Ouch.
but if you know Mega Man X3, the cartridge alone is hard enough to find. The cartridge alone, I would be willing to pay $150 for, hands down, easily. But any Super Nintendo game, especially a rare one, complete in box, yeah, to the right person, that would be worth enough. I don't need it in the box, but $400, it's expensive, but it's reasonable. And then after I saw that, I looked up on his wall behind his counter and saw that he had a Mega Man 6 poster up there, a Japanese one, and I was commenting on it, and like, that's a sweet-ass Mega Man poster. And he goes, we don't have any Mega Man posters up there. Like, yeah, you do right there. He's like, that's not Mega Man. Like, are you really going to be that big of a dick and argue about the difference between Mega Man and Rockman? Well, they're not the same character. Well, whatever, dude, shut up.
That's hilarious.
Don't get me started on my Mega Man.
One friend went to a game store on the weekend, I think, and posted this on Facebook, that he didn't say what, but it was a Nintendo 64 game.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just the box they were selling for $15.
Just the box.
Jesus.
Just the box.
Oh my god.
My
Was it at least a good game?
I don't know. He didn't say.
Because I could see selling like a mint condition box of Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask or Super Mario 64 for $15. But if it was just something like Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey,
That would be awful.
I got to tell you, we went to the West Edmonton Mall,
Which I'm super jealous about.
it's nothing to write home about. It is not bigger or cooler than the Mall of America. And I'm not saying that because America's the coolest. I'm saying it because it's not bigger. We walked the entire thing in like an hour. Whereas the Mall of America, Aaron, back me up on this. The Mall of America, to go around every floor all the way around, would require a few hours.
The Mall of America is run by Canadians.
I don't care. It's awesome.
Yeah, you could say that probably.
I think what makes it bigger, though, is that they have a relatively decent-sized amusement park. They have a huge water park in there. I mean, that wave pool was enormous. And then they have a
Well, I
giant...
haven't been there since they added the wave pool.
No, this is in Edmonton.
Oh, in Edmonton, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they added they have a huge water park with a bunch of slides and a wave pool that's enormous. And then they have a huge pirate ship in the middle of the mall. But the coolest thing I saw, and I'm so glad I saw this, was just a random Canadian pickup hockey game started in the middle of the mall. Because they have a
That's
giant...
hilarious.
Yeah, we were getting some Tim Hortons, and which I'm very impressed with. Tim Hortons is some good stuff. And we were standing there looking over the balcony, and just out of nowhere come all these hockey people, just pick up hockey game. Hey, you got a white jersey? All right. You got a red jersey? All right, let's play hockey. And they started playing hockey. I was kind of disappointed that it didn't just randomly happen in the middle of the street while I was up there, but, you know, you win some, you lose some.
I Wikipedia'd this stuff, and apparently the West Edmonton Mall is bigger than the Mall of America.
But what defines bigger, though? Like, just sheer floor space? Because if so, then they're counting the hotels which are attached to it, which I don't think really counts because the Mall of America doesn't have hotels attached to it. It's just pure mall space.
So the West Edmonton Mall has 3,800,000 square feet with 850 plus stores and services. And the Mall of America, I need to wait for this page to load again, has 2,500,000 square feet. Oh, just kidding.
What?
Plus another 5 million? I don't know why that's there.
Yeah. Probably for Camp Snoopy or whatever the hell it's called.
But only 520 plus stores.
Only 520 stores?
Yeah.
I wonder if they're counting restaurants because they had a offshoot up there called Bourbon Street, which had a ton of restaurants and like 600 food courts. So I don't know. Just my I may be wrong, but just my personal feeling on it is it didn't feel bigger than the Mall of America.
That's pretty cool though that you have been to both to compare.
Yeah.
Jealous.
Super.
Now how many floors is Edmonton?
Just 2.
Yeah, see, that's probably the difference too.
Yeah, Mall of America is 3.5, kind of 4.
I would be overwhelmed though.
It's really cool because in the Mall of America, and I didn't believe my friend when they told me this, but in the Mall of America, if you stand still enough, you can actually feel the mall moving because it's built in sections and it's so big.
It's like the floor moving?
Like the floor moving from just like...
Yeah, it's just
literally the pressure of people walking in the wind. And,
that's intense.
Earth trimming.
Yeah, probably the volcano underneath it too doesn't help.
Probably, yeah.
But overall, it was a good trip. I'm glad to be home, minus the car repairs.
Right.
But what's fantastic is on these vacations, I have tons of time to play games, and usually what I play on vacations is retro games. So
you probably have a lot to talk about.
I don't have a ton to talk about, but I think for this show we decided to talk about Parasite Eve, correct?
That is correct.
Whew. And I think for once we finally all played it. I don't know if we played it through to completion, but we played it.
Yeah, I didn't.
I did not either.
Who made it the farthest?
I got to the point before you went into like the final building.
Okay, so you probably absolutely made it the furthest because I only made it to the end of day 3.
I think I was on day 6, day 7.
I think there's only 6
many-
days, aren't there?
Huh.
Anyway, Jess, give us a rundown of Parasite Eve. What's it all about?
So this kind of confused me.
Okay.
Because from my understanding, there's a female character, which was pretty cool. And she was not scantily clad, which was also pretty cool.
Kind of disappointing, but I'm just kidding.
But it's funny, just going back to like the graphics that the game had.
Was phenomenal.
I
The graphics in that game were pretty phenomenal
They were.
for what that game was.
They were. That opening
the
cutscene.
cutscenes and even the gameplay itself isn't terrible.
No,
for sure.
It has held up amazingly well over the years because that game came out 99.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna double check myself here because I've got it in my hand.
98.
98. That was close.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, yeah, awesome graphics for the time, and still looking back, it was still really well done. But I couldn't see someone being like, "Oh my gosh, look at her boobs," in a not very well. Yeah. Anyway,
the game is 6 days.
Yeah. Okay, so
6.
Parasite Eve, you play as. Her name is
Ava.
Aya. I think it's Aya.
Aya.
Okay,
Yeah.
Aya Bray, kind of a mouthful. She is a NYPD detective, and she is working on a case where there is some sort of crazy phenomenon happening around town where people just randomly en masse burst into flames.
Burst from flame, yeah.
And
It was drawn to the case.
And
Yes.
it starts off as you have no idea. You're on a date.
Yeah, she seems like
You get
kind of
set up on a blind date, and
one
you're
of those-
going to like the opera, and you get in there, and everybody just starts to burn up.
just
And,
spontaneously combusts.
The lady starts to get superpowers that's on stage, and basically she is the only one unaffected, the Aya, and you basically have to go out and find her.
But
and
she is
track
a
her
smart
down.
lady. She goes to the opera packing, like, has a gun
Right.
hidden in her.
Well, I think that's how all
Dress.
cops roll, isn't it? If you're a
Yeah.
cop, you've constantly got a gun strapped to your upper thigh.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're female.
Yeah,
Right.
well, I
Wear a
would.
dress, you gotta have someplace to put it.
True. But yeah, the
The-
spontaneous combustion.
Okay, so it all revolves around, and I'm not afraid to admit that this game helped me in some of my science classes simply because some of the things that it talked about back when games actually, I shouldn't say back when, but this game actually has some educational merit to it, talking about the cells and how they react and what's going on at a molecular level here with the mitochondria and how that is. Apparently, there's this hidden ancient race of beings or intelligence or some.
The mitochondria themselves were
Right.
a species.
Okay.
And that's kind of where I had a problem with that.
Yeah. Okay, so what's happening is they're reawakening, and they are going to, from what I understood, cleanse the Earth, and Aya is not affected by what the mitochondria is able to do.
And it's something, if I remember right, it had something to do with just her genetics as a whole.
Yeah.
And I don't remember I didn't get that far in the second playthrough if they get to that where they tell you what happens.
Well,
Yeah, they do.
without giving up too much of the storyline, it's definitely, it plays more like, when I was playing this, I kept thinking of Heavy Rain, kind of the storytelling in Heavy Rain, and Indigo Prophecy, which is also made by the people who made Heavy Rain. But it's like a cross between those games and a Final Fantasy mixed with a kind of a real-time action combat system, which, to be honest, that's the one thing that I thought wasn't going to hold up very well, because going back to a lot of old RPGs, the combat system is usually the first thing that feels really dated, because now we have RPGs that have so many cool things that we can do with them, but
And this playthrough, I wasn't as concerned about like I thought I was going to be, because I remember being a pain in the butt before, and this time it really kind of wasn't. If you knew what you were doing.
Okay, so the way the combat system works is it's all random battles. Actually, I don't want to say that they're random because they are very scripted in where the battles are. If you die, you can know exactly where you're going to fall into a battle again. So, but they're quote random. And when you launch into the battle, you can still move around, and you have to maintain a certain distance to the enemies depending on your gun. And this sphere circle pops up that will show you how far your gun will reach, and then depending on the ammo capacity of your gun, you can fire up to, I don't know, some guns I think you can get like 10 bullets to shoot, and you can switch between characters. So you can like put 3 bullets into the bird, 1 bullet into the snake, and 4 bullets into the rat.
Yeah. Which is pretty neat.
But then she's got, and I never really used it too much, and maybe that's why I struggled with the game on this playthrough, is the Parasite Eve powers. As you level up, she gains more powers, like the ability to heal herself, to cast sleep on something, or to scan energy shots and stuff like that.
The scan wasn't very good.
No, it's like all the Final Fantasy games where you just like, what's this character's weakness? Oh, hit it with a lot of stuff.
Right.
Good.
So the combat system held up very, very well for me. There's some battles, the boss battles in general are really difficult because I feel like you don't get enough medicine in this game to really last you through the boss battles. I remember every boss battle that I was in, I used up all of my medicine.
Yeah, and I made the mistake of you can get a vest that will automatically dose you with medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wore that, and all of a sudden my health came back. I was like, no, I was strategizing, and you couldn't because it'll automatically do that for you. So
does that only do it once per battle, or does it do it every time you get low? Because I had it
every time.
I had it restore my health once. Maybe it's because I was out of medicine, but I had it restore my health once, and then I got low again and just died because I was like, "Oh, hey, that's right. I don't have to waste my turn on medicine."
Yeah, you could have been out of medicine, because I know I ran out of medicine quickly when I had the vest on because I wasn't realizing how much it was giving me. But
and would it use your most powerful potion or your weakest potion?
Most powerful.
Oof. Wow. So, did you guys play around a lot with upgrading your weapons and your armor?
No.
I did the very first playthrough. I did that quite a bit, but this time I didn't get that far to do that.
I felt like it's a really good system, but you don't get to use it enough simply because you need tools that you just randomly find or people will give you, but then you have to go back to the police station, and that person that does it at one point in the game, without spoiling anything, becomes completely unavailable.
Right.
And you have to still have a special permission form or something too, don't you?
Yeah, and where the hell do you get those?
LAPD. Yeah. Well, the other thing that I remember too about this game that I liked a lot was it was very much like the old style point-and-click adventure games.
Yeah.
Where you had to go and, you'd go into a room and they would not necessarily show what could be moved or what you should look at. You literally had to go to every spot and hit the button, an action button, to determine whether you can interact with it.
I still do that with modern RPGs. I'll walk around pressing X on like cupboards and beds and stuff, expecting things to pop up, and never works anymore.
Right, never works anymore. But that was one of the games you needed to, and there's a lot of hidden things that unless you go around and do those, you're going to miss. There's a lot of in this playthrough, I noticed a lot of areas that I don't remember going to before that have no purpose. There's nothing, that if you go in there, there's just nothing. For the first time I went in, I didn't do anything. But then this time I went through and actually checked everything, and there's a lot of hidden things, a lot of more vests, a lot more ammos. A lot more of the guns and things that you can find that might help you later on. They don't need a lot of good right away, but
I felt
having those options to go through there is worth it.
I felt like the ammo was a bit too generous. I never had anything less than like 150 bullets on me at any given time.
Yeah, I never had an issue with ammo at all. And at the first part, when you go out, there's a guy standing there, and I think he's a cop.
Yep.
And he gives you ammo, but you can completely get a crap ton of ammo from him if you keep asking him.
Oh, really?
Oh God,
I didn't know you could keep asking.
It's also one of those games, like you said, is when you can leave the room, and then when you go back, the bad guys are back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on which order or which room you come out of. 'Cause
Yep.
you can just go to side rooms and be okay, but yeah, if you actually leave that central area of like the hallway or whatever, and you go outside and go back in, the bad guys will reappear.
Well, the one thing that was kind of frustrating is that the game was at parts very, very vague on where you needed to go. I think it was at the beginning of day 3 when you are in the police station and it's all in shambles, and you go downstairs and find that Ben, was that the name of the little boy?
Ben, yeah, that's your partner's son.
Yeah, when Ben was downstairs in the canine unit room and he had taken off after Shiva, I have no idea how many times I tried getting through that part. At some point I just got frustrated and turned it off. But it was really vague where you needed to go because there was like a blood stain on the ground that's like, oh, okay, obviously let's look for some more orange blood stains. Didn't find any because like Aya goes down, she's like, is this Shiva? Like, obviously it's telling you to look for that, but you don't need to. And then I just walked around every single room for half an hour fighting the same enemies over and over and over until I did something dumb and died. Then I had to restart and do it all over until there was one room that I had not discovered that I had to go in and then come out to activate a cutscene.
Right.
And that's the thing, too, is that he was in a spot where you hadn't been able to get to previously.
Yeah, so in your mind, you're just like, okay, I can't go there. I'm not going to go there now.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think, like you said about other old games, was that they didn't tell you what you needed to do. You had to find it on your own.
Yep.
Which makes the game a little more fun. And also, this is one of the first games that I can remember where they gave you the benefits of multiple playthroughs.
Yes.
So if you could go through it again, and you unlock I think it's a card game that got unlocked in this one, if I remember right.
Huh.
And then if you go back, after you beat the second time, you can actually go in and fight the final boss, who's like Aya's sister or something like that. Looks like Aya's sister.
Wow.
If I remember properly.
Yeah. I forget her name.
I don't remember. I just know that if I remember it was sister, because I just remember seeing that on the screen at some point.
He did it in Japan because it was based off of a movie or a book. I think it was based off of a book, Parasite Eve.
Really?
And it talked about the whole mitochondria Eve,
Right.
who...
Yeah, because that was I'm trying to remember. I believe that there was a doctor, and I believe this whole thing started because his wife was dying, and he wanted to bring her back, so he injected her with these cells of the mitochondria overtook her body, basically. And then I remember the ultimate being was like what she was trying to
Because there was a
unleash.
kid involved.
And I remember something about having to collect sperm. And I remember being about 19 years old and finding it very funny that I had to go and find sperm.
Yes. It's true.
That's the important things that stick with you through the ages.
All right.
Wow. Back to the combat. Did either of you find yourself switching between guns at all, or did you just find one gun and stick with it the whole game?
I switched guns sometimes depending on where I was.
Really?
Because like I said, in this playthrough here, I only had the one gun. I didn't do them more, but years before when I played, I remember going back and I remember going to certain areas. I remember switching because one gun I believe that I had let me shoot 3 bullets at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like at the same creature, not like just bullets in turn, but I could actually shoot 3, in one shot.
Yeah.
And I remember using that on some of the bigger ones, but then I wouldn't necessarily waste it on just like on the other bosses. Because I think there was one of the bosses, you could only use a certain gun for it to actually do any damage.
Oh, really?
And I believe that was near the end of the game. Was like...
That's going to suck for me because as soon as I got the M16, that's all I used. Every one of the offense upgrades that I got, I plugged into that gun. Every special weapon that I got, I tore down and took the attributes and put it onto that gun. So,
and you made it work if you did that. I remember because like I said, the first time I didn't do it every room. I just kind of sped through it, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
So I didn't get the chance to do all those different things. Like this time when I'm playing, I'm finding all these spots that I just don't remember going to before and finding these secret hatches and things. But I also remember that, like you said, I was using a lot of the special powers as well my first time
For
through.
Parasite Eve powers?
Yeah.
See, I didn't...
I started using those towards the end.
I didn't really start using them until I started to fight Shiva, and the energy shot was really good, but then it just... If you don't have a big stock of medicine to kind of get you through the next couple turns till your Parasite Eve powers restore to use health again, you're screwed.
Yeah, I found I was using medicine more at the beginning, and then I started using the healing powers, and that helped me a lot.
But you see, there's a trade-off there, because without using energy shot on some of the bosses, your bullets will do 1, maybe 2, whereas the energy shot will do 85.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a toss-up. You know, do you stack your inventory full of medicine and get rid of all your extra components?
And I found it was difficult, too, to kind of have a balance, because the only place that you could unload your stuff and get it back was the NYPD building.
Yeah, the police station. I didn't discover that till day 3, so I was holding on to everything.
Yeah, so you had to kind of keep enough, but then I don't know. It was hard.
Yeah,
to
you had to leave
balance
room
that
for when
because
you
didn't
picked
have
up
a
those.
huge inventory.
And then when you find a chest that has something good in it that you can't pick up, it's like, okay, what can I afford to get rid of? And usually there, it's like, all right, I'm going to get rid of the lowest medicines. And the one thing I did switch a lot, though, was the armor. Because you come across a lot of different types of armor, and I think the one that I stuck with the most was the one that automatically healed you, just because there were some instances where I just wasn't paying attention. And I always had a couple revives in my inventory, and I hated when I used those because I wanted to save those for a boss.
Yeah. And that's the thing, it automatically revives you, which I didn't like. I wish there was an option.
But what's the other option? Lose all your progress and go back to the title screen?
That's true.
I think that's the key why they put that. I like that feature that it did auto-revive you.
Because, I wish they did that in like Final Fantasy games with the Phoenix Downs.
Right. Yeah.
But you could just go...
But then like you said, you want to save it for later. Like in Final Fantasy, it's okay if my guy dies, whatever. I'll just wait and then I'll bring him back after the fight using a spell or something. Whereas in Parasite Eve, I think it was imperative that since you only had the one person, you didn't want to die. You know what I mean? That's the whole point of the thing. As a character, you don't want to die.
Yeah.
And I play a lot of games, and I play a lot of tabletop games, D&D and Pathfinder, where some of the people I play with, just they're okay with dying. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'll just die and come back to life. You know, somebody will revive me or whatever. It's like you can't think like that. You know what I mean? Like you want to stay alive. You don't want to die. So if it automatically heals me or automatically revives me, then I think that's good as far as like, you know, realistic, you know, expectations go.
Yeah.
But to just like, oh, I'll just wait till, you know, let this guy die and come back later. Like in Final Fantasy, you can, especially in those later games, you're able to swap out characters in the middle of fights and stuff.
Well, Final Fantasy 13 did something where if the main character dies, regardless of the other two people are still alive, then you're done.
It ended. Yeah, and that made sense though. So
yeah, I like that because this game is pretty sparse on the save points. There were some times I remember I was flying up to Canada and I was playing it, and I hadn't gotten to a save point for quite some time, and I rolled across Shiva and just got my ass kicked and lost about 45 minutes worth of save. So
that's you can only save at the phones.
Yeah.
And those phones, like I said, are not easy to spot.
No, you just spot them by a little blinking red light.
Yeah, you have to look for that little. I think it flashes red or something like that.
If you're lucky.
You have to look for that, and otherwise it's just blended into the rest of the scenery.
Yeah, I really like that. They did a great job with those pre-rendered backgrounds and the environments.
Mm-hmm. I did really like the cutscenes.
Yeah, those were super cool. Like
this is the one game that I don't understand why they haven't tried to update.
Oh yeah, this one would
come back.
Great.
They put out that third birthday on the PSP, which I have talked to some people who said they really liked the game. But then, to me, I looked at it and I said, this is Final Fantasy X2. I mean, the whole... I peeked through the strategy guide once. It's like, you change clothes throughout this whole thing to get different powers and upgrades. And it's like, I'm not going to play dress up.
The third birthday?
The third birthday was a PSP game that came out that was a spin-off of the Parasite Eve games using the main character, Aya.
Did you ever play Parasite Eve 2?
I did. I own that. I believe I own that one as well. But that one there was a lot different. If I remember right, I did not like that one as much as the first one. And I thought because they changed something in it that I thought was going to make it easier, but I think it made it more difficult.
Huh.
I'm trying to remember what it was about because I thought it was a lot harder than the first one.
The one thing that I found really difficult,
I'm pretty sure they changed up the combat. That threw me off. What was that?
I didn't like in the combat. I found it was really difficult to kind of dodge enemies' attacks. Like, I found she was kind of slow and clumsy when it came to that.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing. Because once you get in your little bubble, you can't move until you're.
Because the battles actually take place in the physical environments that you're exploring, but you can't manipulate. You're kind of constrained in there, and a lot of the enemies just have all-encompassing attacks, like those lizards that shoot out the fire from their tail. There's really no way to avoid that. But the first form of Eve that you fight, I kept trying to dodge her main laser attack, and I realized that if you just stand directly in front of her when she shoots it, you'll be okay. So a lot of it is just finding those little gaps in where the enemies can attack.
And going back thinking about it, it's a lot like Resident Evil 5, where you can't move and shoot.
Yeah.
So you have to know where you're going to be. So once you go to attack mode and you hit that button and that grid comes up, you are stuck until your actions are done.
Yep.
And the bad guys though are still on their turn-based thing, so they can actually still shoot you while you're in your bubble. Right? Like once you pick your movements, because it stops time so you can pick your actions and pick your people. But then
once
until
you
you're
select
done,
it,
you're stuck there, and they can just get you. So if you're stuck there, you're going to be in their line of fire. Or sometimes, if you're not in your bubble, your sphere, then you can move around to get out of the way of their attacks.
But that screwed me over with the worms. I kept finding myself being in the wrong place when I was going to attack them, so I'd be frozen and get those stupid worms.
Those were in the zoo, right?
Yes.
Yeah, those ones were kind of frustrating. Because you had to time your attack for it.
Yeah, but luckily there was a phone right behind where they were.
Oh, was there?
Yes.
I probably missed it.
It was like the screen before, so it was okay for me to screw up a million times.
Jeez. I don't know. I like it. It's not as good as I remember. I think with all retro games, though, I hold them into a little higher esteem. But then again, there are parts of it that I think were definitely better than I remember, like the combat system. My one major complaint with this game is how slow you move, even when you are running.
Oh my god.
It's one of those games where you can't turn on automatic run. You have to hold circle, and even then, it still feels like you're walking.
Because her walk is the slowest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, it's painful.
So painful.
It is pretty bad. I was trying to run in that game, too, and it's like, I think I'm running, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, like, I was playing around with it, and I was just, oh my god. I couldn't handle how slow she walked.
Yeah, I was frustrated with that. But, that aside, I guess you don't need to run very fast because you're not traversing great distances. They were pretty good with the pacing in the game between how much combat and how much just meandering, and then it would pop in some story and like some other RPGs where you can go hours between story elements. This wasn't that long.
Yeah.
I'd say to beat this game from start to finish would be 10 hours.
And I liked how nicely it chunked into the days.
Yeah.
It made it so that, like, if you sat down, you could play through a day and then be able to turn it off if you had something else to do.
Yeah. And speaking of Parasite Eve 2, I think that's what they did. They took away the sphere in Parasite Eve 2.
So you just had to guess if you were in range?
Yeah, I think you had to guess whether you're in range, and it was all in real time, I believe.
Oof.
And there was something about, because there's a bar, and I don't think there's a bar that judges the actions anymore.
Weird.
I don't remember. I'm gonna dig it out now. Maybe that's the next game I'll play. It's Parasite Eve 2 after I beat this one again.
I don't think I have Parasite Eve 2. No, I don't. I've got the Parasite Eve 1 that came with the 1998 Collector's Edition CD that had a playable demo of Xenogears and Final Fantasy VIII.
That's the one I got too.
Impressive.
That is the game. This is the game that I think I bought this solely because it had the demo of Final Fantasy VIII on it.
No, I think you're right. That's the same reason I bought it too. Also, it's a SquareSoft game, and I thought it was going to be really cool. But it had the Final Fantasy VIII demo on there.
And this one had a movie for Brave Fencer Musashi and Bushido Blade 2.
And it's also why I picked up Brave Fencer Musashi, I believe, because I played Parasite Eve, and then I saw that, and I was like, I got to get this game.
Oh, wait, it didn't have a playable demo of 8. It just had a movie for it, and I wanted to see that. That's back before the days of YouTube.
What one had
And that's
8?
something that's cool, too, is that all the demos and extras that you would get on the older games.
Yeah. And it's not buy the collector's edition to get this.
Yeah, it was just included. And, you know, I really think about this, from 95 to 2000... Squaresoft was the bomb.
Oh, Squaresoft was awesome. They rarely made a bad game.
And then they went into Square Enix and just totally went to hell.
Now, did Enix buy Squaresoft or Squaresoft buy Enix?
I believe Squaresoft bought Enix.
Okay, because I need to look that up because that's the other thing that guy in Canada was getting on my nerves about was he was ragging on Squaresoft pretty hard.
And it could have been the other way around, but I thought it was the other way. I thought it was like a mutual thing to save both companies, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But, you know, they just... And also, whoever they picked up for the Final Fantasy games once 7 came out was the worst character designer in the world to me. Because every game that came out from Squaresoft had the exact same looking...
androgynous character?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and 7 it was cool because it was neat. It was like, show that. And then 8 was pretty much just a black-haired Cloud. And then 9 came back, which was a really good one, which I enjoy. But I just thought, like, I don't know, whatever reason, I just couldn't get into 9. The storyline must have been boring or something. I kept playing it just to get to the cutscenes.
Zidane.
And then 10 came out, which was like, oh my god, it's another guy that looks just like this. And then... And then 13 comes out, and they put in the kid that looks exactly like a little guy. It's like, and then the Bouncer came out, same thing with the same androgynous-looking guys. It was like, what in the heck?
The Bouncer was a launch title for the PS2, correct?
It was, and I had huge expectations for that game, and it
I remember working when I was my last couple weeks at GameStop. We had a factory sealed copy of the Bouncer that had been in the store since launch, and they still had a price tag of $39.99 on it.
Oh, yes. I had one of those
hilarious.
in my store as well. $39.99 for new. We sold it used, by the way, at the time, and I had my new copy of Bouncer for $4.99, I believe it was.
That's too much
amazing.
for that game.
Yeah, and like that game, and they haven't tried to redo that game until Tekken 6.
Ugh.
And then Tekken 6, and that was also horrible. But I still can't understand why they can't make a game like that. And I guess they did do a pretty good job with Jet Li's, whatever that game was called. I just remember the Jet Li game.
God
Rise of
Hand?
Honor.
Oh, okay.
No, Rise of Honor, I think it was called. And that one was okay, because then it was, as they're all going to fight. But I would like to have a game like Final Fantasy or something like that where you can actually go in and get in like a fight. Like,
You should play Air Guys. That's exactly what it is. It's a fighting game with Final Fantasy characters.
Air Guys?
Yeah, ERGHEIZ.
All right, I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah,
I know they
I
made
would
that.
never have guessed
Dissidia,
that's how you spell it.
but yeah.
yeah. It's pretty bad. So, anybody play anything else?
Retro? No. I played, I got Far Cry 3, and I was playing that.
Oof. Well,
So-
when I was in Canada, I sat down with Kev the first night I was there, and we played through the entirety of Super Mario Brothers 3 in one... No, I shouldn't say one sitting, but we broke it up.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It was...
Oh, I take that back. I did play some Mario Brothers.
Original?
Original Mario.
We're going to have to do a Mario show.
We should.
Maybe when we get our still in progress special guest.
Right.
We should get a few in progress special guests.
Okay. The other thing too, and Jess, I have to give you a formal thank you for the amazing Mega Man hat. I really wish I would have had that for the live show, but I did the next best thing and wore the one that my grandma made me.
Oh,
I like the one your
Grandma.
grandma made you.
Oh yeah, it's definitely you could tell it was made by somebody who had no idea who Mega Man was, nor cared. But it still looked really cool. But no, Jess made me. Did you knit it?
I crocheted it.
Crocheted it. What's the difference?
Crocheted.
Knitting is when you
hooks.
have two needles.
What's
and then a crochet, you have a hook.
A needle and a hook.
Mm-hmm.
Just a hook.
I used
You're a
to
hooker
crochet.
if you're crocheting.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll have to.
And she was very nice. She sent me a Christmas card with a Smurf, a crocheted Smurf head.
She sent that to me, and I
The
about
creepiest
died.
looking Smurf head.
It
though.
was. It was so. I enjoyed. It was the thought that counted and stuff. But now that you say that, I feel bad. I feel as bad now about saying it was not.
Oh, that's you could
best
use that
looking
thing.
Smurf.
You could use that thing as a coaster.
That's what
You
I thought
could
she
use
made
it
it
to
for.
scare off people too.
I thought it was like an ornament or a coaster.
How long did that thing take
Whatever
you to make?
want. The Smurf,
Yeah.
like 20 minutes.
20
How long
minutes.
did the hat take?
I would say like 4
Day.
hours.
If
I
you
was watching TV like for 2 nights.
if you ever find yourself with 4 hours of extra time and you wanted to make another one in different Mega Man hat colors, I would pay you for it.
I'll start up my own Mega Man hat business.
Yes.
There you go.
And
Mega
I
Man
won't give
Toques.
one to the douche in Canada
Yeah.
who's mean to you.
Yeah. Don't give him to him. He sucks. Kev was trying to make sure that I left my other Mega Man hat in Canada because he really wanted one.
That's funny.
So
I made a Batman hat the other day too.
what for who?
Nice.
Andrew was part of a Reddit Secret Santa,
Mm-hmm.
and his Secret
posted
Santa
on-
really liked Batman.
You posted on Facebook, didn't you?
Yeah,
Yes. Okay. I
Did
see
you
that,
for this Mega Man one? Did you go off of a template or did you just make it?
I just made it. Well, I had a template for like a toque with ear flaps, and then I just kind of made it look more Mega Man-y.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
That was a great present to
very
come home
nice.
to in the middle of the desert. But when I got back,
It'll keep you toasty warm.
to be fair, the day I got back, it was the exact same temperature in Phoenix as it was in Edmonton.
Yeah, in Toronto,
It's
it
cold
was
down there.
so warm.
Yeah, it sucked. All right, you guys want to do some emails?
Boost. Emails.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to come up with a good slogan for emails, like the email bag, something like that.
Okay.
Not email bag.
This whole thing is still just a work in progress. What is this? Episode 7? 6? 7.
7, I believe.
Okay. If you want to write in, factorysealed@manatank.com. I had to take a second to think about what it was.
I totally have Blue's Clues stuck in my head now, though. Like, don't they say, like, we're
Man.
going to the mail bag or something?
We'll go, we got mail. I think we should do that since we're doing a retro. We should do, we got mail.
Oh, from
The AOL.
from
Find
the-
that,
from
AOL.
the AOL thing.
Yeah.
I'll
We got mail.
look into that and see if we can use it without getting sued.
Sounds good.
Well, we're saying we, not you got mail.
Oh, I was
so-
just going to straight up steal
yeah.
the sound clip from AOL.
Well, there you go.
All right.
Do they even exist?
I think
anymore?
They
in
do.
some
You know how many emails I get, let's say, at AOL.com? I'm like, geez.
those
Wow.
suckers are still
I
paying.
don't think they're a provider anymore, though. But
All right, I kind of screened these. We don't have a lot. We have one guy who was just telling us, Nathan Hood. We asked people where they found our podcast, and he said that he just found it through iTunes.
Cool.
And then he just proceeded to yell at me about how I thought that Mega Man X was cooler than Zero, and he told me I liked little boys, and that was about it.
wow, that's not a
You
very
do
nice
like Mega
email.
Man.
Yeah. Oh, and he said he's singing Mass Effect praises, so I'm not going to continue that.
Well,
And
it's like this is a retro gaming show, not a Mass
Yeah.
Effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
so that was the gist of his email, but he shared with us how he found us.
Nice.
Topher White writes in, "Hey, Factory Sealed, it's Topher again." First,
I remember Topher.
yeah, I think he wrote in last week or the week before. It shouldn't say
I
week.
believe Topher was the one that had was that the one with the bad spelling? And he was like, I'm sorry, I don't know how to
No, that was Evan Boudreau. Yeah, Evan
Ah,
Boudreau, who
okay.
wrote us the same email 4 times, all edited differently.
type. Okay.
All right, he says, first off, I'm loving the show and was happy to hear my question get answered. Now I have another game request. It was the very first game I owned and beat, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets for the Game Boy Advance. I've noticed that you guys haven't covered a lot of portable games, so I wanted to throw in your way. I know this game isn't amazing, but it's not horrendous like most movie games. At least that's how I remember it. Please, if the game is terrible, tear it to shreds so I know it's just my nostalgia talking when my brain says this game's okay. Thanks.
Nope, because most movie-based games are fantastic on portable handheld systems, much like the Game Boy Advance. Whereas once they got bumped up to the DS and they had to actually put stuff in it, they were not as cool.
That's really strange that the movie adaptations of games on the portable front were awesome.
Because if you play Monster House on the Game Boy Advance, you are basically playing a game of Zelda.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I just love Harry Potter, though.
Okay, let's put that down. Let's play some Harry Potter, Chamber of Secrets, Game Boy Advance.
Oh, I'll be so excited.
I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, though.
Shut your mouth.
All right, hold on. I got to write this down before I forget. Okay, Harry Potter, Chamber of Secrets. I think we should start covering some more portable games. Maybe we should choose a portable game for ourselves next time. Start thinking.
Eye of the Beholder.
I'll play Pokemon again.
I have yet to play a single Pokemon game ever.
What?
Yeah.
Neither have I. I've never
How
played
are
one
we
either.
friends?
Because I live in America and you want to be American?
False.
False. Which Pokemon should we play?
Yellow.
Yellow? Is that a Game Boy?
You start with Pikachu.
I don't have any access to those, so.
Okay, well, we'll get you access. We'll get you a system. We'll warp you back to 1988.
Nice.
And you'll play...
Give you a rat tail.
Yep. Okay, we have another one from... Oh, God. I probably should have read this.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna skim it as I'm reading it.
Is it long, or is it filthy?
That always works well.
It's long, but I feel like there's a lot of meat to this email. So let's just get to it.
I think you need to start sending these to us so we can read them as well.
You want me to?
I think that'd be fair. Yeah.
Here.
That way you should send it out the day before we're going to do it. That way we can catch up ourselves on emails.
Here, I'm going to send it to you right now. There you go. You got it. Now you can read through this with me. And okay.
Jesus.
I don't know how to pronounce this guy's last name because he's from Germany, but I'm going to try.
His name is Chris.
Christian Tvrdak. Tvrdak. If I horribly butchered it, I'm sorry. He says, "Hi, FSP crew. My name is Chris, and I'm listening in on your podcast from Germany." So at least we're getting overseas. He considers himself a retro gamer, got his first console back in 87 for his 8th birthday. Never forget the feeling, hooked it up. Yeah, we've all talked about that. He said he skipped the NES or the Super Nintendo, got a PS1, got back into retro collecting about 6 years ago. He says he now has 2 kids, a 4.5-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl, and they're the reason that he's writing today. So here's his question. What do you think would be the earliest age for my kids to start playing games on a game console? And should I get them a current generation console due to Kinect, Move, Wii motion sensors, and gaming? Or should I start them off with a retro console, which I would prefer? But as you all know, the games are pretty tough, and the frustration level might rise quickly, and the graphics might scare them off. Think of Deadly Towers or Dragonlance on the NES. Reasons for wanting them to play game consoles is because it taught me some very basic but important things. In the long run, have patience, never give up, and you can finish anything if you try hard enough. Great eye-hand coordination, so on and so forth. So he really wants to hear our thoughts. Keep up the great work. Share your thoughts on the Neo Geo, and try to stay on schedule for once.
Okay, and I'm going to ask Eric Peterson not to interrupt Jessica during her impact on this.
I missed that sentence?
Oh, you missed it, sir. You need to stay quiet while Jessica talks.
Hey, Aaron.
That's right.
Pong.
Listen up.
Pong. Yeah, Pong.
Pong.
His kids should probably play Pong. Okay,
let's deconstruct this here. He says, what do you think would be the earliest age for his kids to start playing on a game console?
I think they're old enough.
He says 4.5-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl. It's kind of interesting because, believe it or not, I keep up with some various medical journals, and occasionally they have articles come through about the effects of gaming on children and what's the proper age, like this exact question, what's the proper age to introduce your kids to games? And a few years back, I'd say probably 3-4 years ago, there was an article that came up that addressed this exact question, and the findings, very loosely based, said something to the effect of kids should not be exposed to video games on any level until a minimum age of 6 years old. 6 to 8, somewhere in that age gap. And when they are, it should be on a very, very structured, very controlled, very parent-involved environment. And it should not
What
be...
What was the reason? Until 6?
Because kids are still... And it gets into that in a second. I just want to lay out the age gap for a second.
A lot of that...
From like age 8 up until about 10, 12 years old, it needs to be very controlled, parent-involved. Parents need to be playing the games with the kids, talking to them about the games. This is what it is. And most importantly, they need to be age-appropriate games. Because at that age, kids are very addictive. They have a very addictive personality. And they said that a kid should not be allowed to fully immerse themselves into a full gaming world, like a Final Fantasy type game or an MMO like World of Warcraft, until a minimum age of sometime between 14 and 16. And even then, that should be very structured and controlled, because kids have a very, very addictive personality, and they struggle to tell the difference between fiction and reality. And that's where it comes in with the parents sitting down and actually playing the games with the kids and talking to them about what's happening, what type of game they're playing, especially the age-appropriate ones. They said in no circumstances should kids, really young kids, be allowed to play really violent games like your Resident Evils and your Call of Duties and stuff like that, because they don't understand exactly what is happening. Yeah, they understand how to play the game, but they don't understand what is actually going on screen and what its real-world counterpart is. And so often parents will just like, well, here's your game, go have fun and play, and they're left to interpret it themselves when they don't have the cognitive capacity to interpret it themselves.
I agree with that in a sense,
Yeah.
But I think that in terms of the younger ages, I think it would be beneficial as soon as they have the motor skills to actually hold a controller and the cognitive skills to understand that they're controlling the game. But I do absolutely think that it's the parents' responsibility, and it has nothing to do... Because if you think about the cartoons, like growing up on like Bugs Bunny,
Mm-hmm.
they had quite a bit of violence in Bugs Bunny,
absolutely.
but you always had your parents to explain that to you. So I think it's more of a parent problem than a gaming issue.
Well, and I think that's what a huge issue with a lot of things in society is. You know, I work in schools. I see that every day. The complete lack of parent involvement is, I would say, upwards of 90% the cause of child behavior issues is lack of parent involvement. And especially with video games, it's, you know, Aaron, you can probably attest to this. When I was working at GameStop, I would see parents come in with their 5-6-year-old kids and let them pick out a game, and it's like Grand Theft Auto, and they'd be like, "You do realize this is a mature rated game with murder and rape and prostitutes and drugs? Yeah, that's fine, whatever."
Right, that's fine, whatever. He won't understand it anyway.
Yeah.
But it glorifies it too in those games, and that's what's scary, is that the parents aren't
Well, and I think
understanding that.
Well, here's the... If you give me a minute to,
go ahead.
to take on
Go ahead.
the video games and the age appropriateness. Our age, anybody from pretty much, I think, the age of 28 to older, okay, grew up in a fashion where video games, we saw the growth of the video game industry.
Mm-hmm.
It went from Pong to Pac-Man to the Donkey Kong to Nintendo Mario Brothers and games like that where the graphics were bad. There wasn't a lot of reading, and there was some reading, but not as much reading as in some of the games today. Into the higher graphics, the more combat orientated games, where then now the people that are the ages of 27 to 40 are wanting those more mature, violent games.
Yeah.
So all these game companies are our age or older, making the games that they want to play that they weren't able to play growing up. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So then, when my kid was young, she's 14 now. I started her off on like the Leapster and the smaller, the handhelds like the Game Boy and the DS, because I thought those games were more easier to learn how to play for one, and they weren't as visually stimulating, and also it is easy to learn how to play to do. There's not a lot of actions you have to do, and the games are, I guess, older style. You know what I mean? They're like a generation back on the handhelds.
Mm-hmm.
And leapfrogs, and all those types of things, easy to use. Because I started playing games, gosh, I must have been about 3 or 4 years old when I started playing. But back then, it was the Commodore 64.
Yeah, the
PCs
games
and
weren't
Ataris,
as...
and they were, and it taught me hand-eye coordination. That's what they were all about.
Well, and I think what the difference between our generation of gamers growing up and the current generation of gamers growing up is that the kids growing up now are growing up in a technology-based world where everything revolves around smartphones and interactivity and the internet and everything being connected. Whereas for us, like, this is just a fledgling field. And one of the main differences I can see, and to kind of address his next question, is should he get them a current generation console or start with a retro console? I can see the benefits to both, because the current consoles are going to teach them skills and things that they're going to use throughout the rest of their lives that are current now, whereas, like you were saying before, with the retro consoles, those games had a lot of hand-eye coordination, but mainly what really got me playing games, and my parents were okay with it, was I played games like your Final Fantasies and your Dragon Quest that had a ton of reading in it, because as a kid, I really struggled with reading, but my parents saw that I played these games that had a ton of reading, and I was comprehending what was going on. But now,
which is huge.
With current consoles and voiceovers and no subtitles and the ability to skip through that stuff, it's more just instant gratification for these gamers. And so, for my suggestion for him would be find a balance of both. If you want to introduce them to the new stuff, keep it with the age appropriate stuff. Hands out.
And
I will
like
never.
The new stuff.
Yeah.
Honestly, sorry, Jessica.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, we started talking at the same time, so then I heard you. I stopped. But if you want to go to a new system at old, I would definitely go with the Wii U, because it's going to give you both the high definition graphics of today, and it's going to give you the access to that old school catalog that you grew up with, and the stuff even that you missed, that your kids can get in there to start playing. And you can play right along with them, enjoying your old things and tell them what they need to do and things like that. And then also get that ability to do like the motion controls and the different things. And so in my opinion, I would probably maybe go with the Wii U if you want to get both things in one, the retro and the new.
I think
I was gonna say we're just like jumping in, but I like the fact that the Wii U is more family friendly, and that's something that I think, looking at the positives of playing games as a family, like we used to have Dr. Mario tournaments all the time at home, and it was fun because it taught you how to like share games and just even taking turns and communicating with each other. Those sort of skills they can develop really quickly if they're using games as a family or having to share, and I think the Wii U would give them an opportunity to do that.
Well, and I think anybody can build a case that any game is going to help you with some sort of skill, but what it ultimately comes down to is pick games that are age appropriate for your kids. The ESRB exists for a reason. Kids should not be exposed to this type of stuff that goes on in the God of War games and stuff like that.
Right.
They're not mentally prepared to handle that. Even if they don't understand what it is, they're still being exposed to it, and it still is impacting them in some fashion. Mm-hmm. But my suggestion to Chris is get involved with your kids playing games. Be there, be a part of it, but also monitor it and heavily restrict it. My parents never really had an issue with that because I was one of those types of kids that I actually wanted to be outside, skateboarding and playing with friends and being outside. And then I'd come home and play games for a couple hours at night. But being in the classroom teaching and just listening to what kids talk about, what they do when they go home, I would venture probably a good 30 to 40% of the boys in the classes talk about they just go home and they'll just play Call of Duty or they'll play video games until they go to bed. That's all they'll do. And
Right.
it's very apparent because their parents come into school and they say, well, I've tried taking his Xbox away and that doesn't work and this and that and the other thing. It's like, well, because when you take away something that people are addicted to, they're going to react in a negative way.
Right.
You know, my parents never had to take it away and use it as a punishment because I never abused it. I mean, I played a lot of video games, but when they said go outside, as I was probably already outside and 10 blocks away.
Right. Yeah, and it's not a babysitter, and I think a lot of parents use it as a babysitter nowadays. Whereas me, it was like that was. I guess I was kind of a babysitter. My mom knew that I was going to be what I was doing that when I was there.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like she would just tell me to go play my video games, which is what's maybe happening now in some places.
Well, the biggest mistake is a lot of parents are putting these TVs and video game systems in their kids' rooms.
Right, and I was the cool kid because I finally got a TV in my room to play my games, which allowed my mom to watch TV.
Yeah.
But again, that was back in the NES and SNES days.
Yeah.
Which is not as big of a concept as now where you have online access and things like that.
Yeah, I don't think kids, especially the kids this young, need to be worrying about the online interactivity on consoles and stuff like that. So,
right. And then the other thing too with that age group that you brought up, like the staying away from games that are certain things, is that the development in children, is always going off. Like the 3DS, for example, you shouldn't be under the age of 7 because your eyes are still developing. Because of the way they shoot out images to your eyes, it can totally mess up your sight. And I don't know if you've noticed. Well, this is my personal opinion of what I've noticed, and just in general of growing up, is the more active the kids are, like they're involved in sports, they're involved in going outside and hiking, camping, and all types of things. They don't wear glasses.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
And the kids that grow up in front of the PC, in front of the TV. I was one of those kids that got glasses pretty young, but I was also unable to do anything because I was in a body cast for 6 months, and as a young age, and so all I had was that minimum point of view, and so my eyes weren't able to develop as well as maybe some other people's that were able to go outside more and play and get. I don't know. I guess there's another study where people are outside, they get healthier just being outside and eating healthy food and things like that.
Vitamin D.
Yeah. So, I think that has a big impact. And so nowadays, everybody's on the PC at age 1. They're running around with the mouse playing these Nickelodeon games, which are very good, and they're very, educational. But at the same time, they're sitting at 2-3 years old on a PC for hours at a time.
Yeah.
That's another thing, too, though, is the educational piece. And you don't have to just look at educational games, but trying to find educational pieces within any games that you're playing. Like, whether it's educating on how to communicate properly and, try to read those words that are being read to you, or read along, or what do you think that person's feeling. All of those pieces can be involved if you're facilitating your child, while your child's playing the games.
Any other thoughts? I think we answered his email quite thoroughly. I like those emails. That's a good email.
Yeah.
Nice and thought-provoking. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get our thoughts on the Neo Geo, considering that system is, number one, can I just say that it was awful?
That concept, though, at the time was phenomenal, and I really wanted one because I could go. I lived in not a big town, but not a small town, and we would always go to the lake, my grandmother's cabin, and we'd go through these dinky towns where they would have like the Neo Geo arcade consoles where you put your quarters in, and the Neo Geo would let you bring your memory card.
Yeah.
And you continue to play the games. I thought that was the coolest thing until the Neo Geo console actually came out and realized there were definitely no games, and they were like thousands of dollars apparently, I mean?
Yeah.
They're very expensive.
All right, we've got one more question.
By the way, the Neo Geo is coming out again. The Neo Geo Gold. You can get it at GameStop for $199.
Neo Geo Gold?
Yeah. It's a new release on it. Comes with all the Neo Geo games included with it as well.
Oh, so it's $199. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That thing actually looks pretty nice. Why is it called the Neo Geo Gold if it's black?
I guess we have a gold version of it. It's called the Neo Geo Gold.
How big is it? Is it like the Game Boy Micro?
No, it's It's an actual system for you to. Well, there's two of them. There's a handheld one that's coming out, and then there's actually one for the TV.
Huh. And
Like
it comes with a
console.
cartridge that has all the games on it?
I believe it has all the games included with it. Yes.
Wow.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Speaking of the Game Boy Micro, do you ever see any of those roll through your store?
Not anymore. GameStop stopped buying back Game Boy Advance stuff about 2 years ago.
Oh, I'd love to get my hands on a Game Boy Micro. Especially when they had those limited edition ones that look like the old NES control. No, not NES controllers. They were the gold ones.
Yeah.
I just looked at our last question and realized it's one that we have answered plenty of times before.
Well, let's hear it. I want to hear what everybody asks when they keep asking the same question.
Ryan Yedinek asks. He wrote in on Twitter, so I guess you can tweet me questions, but I can't promise I'll remember them. He just happened to send this one now. Which Final Fantasy do you think had the best combat? Kill Eric if he says 8. Ryan thinks 13 had the best. So I hope you all have your stabbing knives out because I am going to say 8.
You know what? Ryan was his name, correct?
Yeah.
Ryan, I will take your point on the 13 because I was a huge fan of the Final Fantasy 13 combat system.
I liked it. I thought it was fantastic.
I don't think it was the best, but I will definitely give kudos that it was one of my more favorite as I got older because I got tired. I didn't have the time to grind anymore, so I really liked it.
I thought it was an improvement on the Final Fantasy X battle system, but still, hands down, I think 8's the best.
I really like 1.
Just straight up menu based.
Straight up menu based.
Well, isn't that how it is? Like 1 through what?
Pretty much
6.
Yeah. Until it got to like 7, they changed it up a little bit where they got the
materia.
It was still materia and things like that and things, but I really like that. And then I like 10's combat system was good, and I think that was all the same. But I do like
10.
Final
Fantasy 10.
So. No, but yeah, okay.
I'm kind of excited for the next show now, though, because it'll just be me and Aron, since everyone's going to kill you.
Yeah,
that's right. You're going to be dead.
Who's gonna produce this thing? Wait, you guys are supposed to kill me.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. It's not a kill.
That's a lot of effort.
It's not a kill yourself if you say 8.
Oh well, you can still do that if you want.
Yeah, it'd make things a lot easier.
That's like a plane trip and too much effort and jail time.
Right.
So, one final thought. I scored myself, I guess from research, a pretty rare game yesterday off of Craigslist. It's a DS game, and I've been looking on the internet trying to find it at just any location, and I haven't found it at any GameStop in the entire country. No Best Buys carry it. Not old, it's a few years old, from Atlas, called Radiant Historia. And Ryan was actually the guy that put me onto it. He sent me a message, he's like, dude, you got to play this. This game's going to change your life. And I kind of called his bluff on it, and it's pretty good.
You're doing a lot of backtracking lately.
Yeah, well, isn't that the nature of things, though? I mean, it's frustrating when you come across somebody who will stand their ground even after they've been proven wrong.
Like poutines.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that game in my store. I've never seen
it. It's really rare from what I gather. You can find it on Amazon for about $75 to $100. This guy had it on Craigslist for $50. I shot him a text message saying, "Would you take 30?" He's like, "How about 35?" So
you're like sold.
32.50.
Yeah, but then I had to drive to the other side of town, so I made up that difference in gas. So. If you want to write us in any emails, game suggestions, factorysealed@manatank.com, I think that's going to do it for us.
Awesome. Well, it's good to be back. It's been a long time. Hopefully our fans know we still exist.
Yeah,
I know there was somebody that was pretty upset on the Twitter. He's pretty bored. His productivity has dropped since we have not been able to air.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, who's crackling?
That's got to be the blue lady over there.
I think so.
That's definitely you.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it came up. So good luck taking that off.
Yay. That's okay. Well, thanks, guys.
You can.
Pong,
where can we follow Pong. You? Where can we follow you on the Twitters?
I'm at Quilted Tunic.
Jess, where can we find you?
At Jess M. Clarkson.
Still too confusing. You can follow me at Honest Pizza. That is going to do it for the show. Next week, well, I shouldn't say next week. Next show, Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets, Game Boy Advance, and Pokemon Yellow.
I'm also going to do
Gryffindor.
Parasite Eve 2. I think if I own it, I will play that to give the update on the battle system.
Sweet. Yeah, this will be the very first Pokemon game I ever played. So I'm breaking new ground here recently because when I was in Canada, I had my very first McDonald's in over 5 years.
That kid.
Yeah,
Jeez.
because Oliver showed up with breakfast. And he's like, hey, I got breakfast. And I saw it was McDonald's. I'm like, I don't want to be a dick. So I ate it.
That must be a first for you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Zing.
All right. Well, until next time, we should be back a couple weeks. See you then.